Hey everyone, so the winter is over. That means it is now mowing season. So today I just want to cover what I do to get my Toro zero turn ready for the summertime. Now I store my mower in the shed. So before I actually take it out of the shed for its initial springtime use, I do a very good visual inspection underneath it. What I'm looking for is, did anything develop a leak over the winter time? Is the engine starting to leak? Are the hydrostatic transmissions starting to leak? So since it's been sitting for about 4 months, now it's going to have the most amount of time to pool underneath it, and I'll probably have the best chance to spot a leak, because obviously you want to catch leaks before they become a major issue. So once I checked underneath it, no leaks, everything's good to go, I'll bring it here into the garage, and I'll walk around it, and I will do a really good, thorough visual inspection. Is anything bent, broken, cracked, frayed? Did anything go wrong with it that I didn't notice when I put it away in the wintertime? Because obviously you want to get on that as soon as possible. If there's anything out of place, anything's wrong, if you need to order any parts, things like that. I'll also do a very good, thorough visual inspection of the tires. Did I pick up any debris? Is there a piece of metal in the tires? Are the tires starting to crack, dry rot, anything like that? Tires will just naturally go bad over time. That's just the nature of rubber. Also, I will add air to them since rubber is naturally porous. They're going to seep air over time. So definitely check your owner's manual for your specific machine to see what your tire pressure is. I'll also do a very good visual inspection of the belt itself. Now, these belts, for the most part, have Kevlar in them. They're really, really durable. They last a very, very long time. So you just want to look to see if there is any damage. Obviously, if you pick up a rock or something like that, it can start to fray and damage the belt. So if they break when you're using them, it usually doesn't damage anything. But obviously, if there is a problem, you want to catch it as early as possible so that you can address it. So again, same thing with like the tires. Is it cracked? Is it frayed? Did I pick up a piece of debris that damaged the belt at all? I'll do a very good, thorough inspection of it, both underneath the deck and under the machine, since this uses a single belt to connect to the engine. So after all that stuff looks good, that's when I will then go over to the owner's manual and start to look at what actually needs to be done both on a yearly basis, and I will also look at my hour meter to see where I am in my hours relative to my maintenance schedule. So let's take a look at the maintenance log. In the owner's manual, you're going to find a very detailed subsection on the recommended maintenance schedule. This is why it's important to keep your owner's manual handy. If you're unable to locate yours, either go on the Toro website or give their customer service a call. They have everything broken down, and everything from daily usage, which mainly involves checking the fluids and the safety systems, and then you have different hour increments after that. So I'm approaching the 100-hour mark. So I will basically check everything up to the 100-hour mark to make sure everything is good. This is basically going to be primarily fluids, filters, and things like the grease points, and just checking over the mower. So let's go ahead and I'll show you what I've done with the mower so far. All right, and with the mower on the service jack, this is something that I highly recommend if you're doing your maintenance yourself. The service jack is going to get it off the ground much higher and much safer than a floor jack would. Now, the bottom of the deck, typically I like to address that in the fall before I put the mower away, usually for a couple of reasons. The main thing is I want to get the grass off of the deck. I don't like leaving the grass compacted underneath the deck for probably about 4 months or so during the winter time. Usually when you're mowing in the fall, the grass tends to be a little bit more wet, and having it compact under there and just sit under there for so many months, it's going to start to rust and corrode the deck. That's really going to be an issue on thinner decks that are typically stamped steel. After a while, that corrosion can start to have an effect on the structure of the deck and really start to have rust issues with it. And also, if you store your mower in an enclosed space like a garage or a shed, it's probably going to start to smell. You're going to get mold and mildew growing under the deck, having that wet grass all compacted up in there. So I do that when the blades are off, so I don't have to worry about hurting my hand on the blades, and I have a much more open, clear area to do it. So while the blades are off, while I'm cleaning the deck, I will also sharpen them. So I start off the season with a nice, fresh edge on the blades. There's lots of ways to sharpen the blades. You can have it done professionally. They make special kits for it. I personally use a grinder with a flap wheel on it. So I think that does a really nice job putting a nice clean edge on the blades. I have a heavy duty work cart that I roll out of the garage. I clamp them down to the cart, and I just make sure I maintain the original factory edge on it, and basically just a few passes usually is more than enough to clean up the blade. So taking them on and off, I will also use my impact gun it makes it a little bit easier just to get them on and off. Trying to get these on and off with a wrench is pretty difficult. An impact gun is definitely going to be the easiest way to go. So once the deck is thoroughly cleaned underneath, the blades are resharpened, I put them back on with the impact gun, and they're good to go. Like I said, that typically I will do in the fall so I don't run into rust and odor issues with the grass being compacted underneath there. Top of the deck, I already inspected the belt itself. With some of these Toro mowers, they just have a plastic cover that comes off with no tools. I'll just take these covers off, just like I inspected the belt. Also inspect the pulleys, make sure the pulleys didn't get bent or damaged or anything like that. Make sure that they're good to go for the season. Also, while I have this up on the service jack, you want to address your grease fittings. This is something you definitely want to do at least once a year. So the grease fittings, there's one on the front of each wheel. The rear wheels do not have them, but there's going to be a grease fitting on here, so you're going to have to just get your grease going. Usually once the grease starts to pop out the outer edges of the sleeves, that's more than enough. And you'll actually start to feel the tackiness of the wheel once the grease gets in there. You actually feel a little bit more resistance, so you know that that's good to go. So the underside of the deck's been dealt with. I checked everything regarding the pulleys and the belt. The front wheels are greased, so I'm done with the front of the mower. Now let's move over to the back of it. All right, and at the back of the mower, now underneath I do have one grease fitting that I addressed for the idler arm. Definitely check your owner's manual to see how many grease fittings, if any, you have underneath your specific mower. Before I start it up for the first time, I always check my lubricants, make sure that I have a sufficient amount of engine oil. I also make sure I have enough hydrostatic transmission fluid here in the expansion tank. You don't want to run those systems without lubrication in them. I did a video already how to change both the engine oil and how to change the hydrostatic transmission fluid. I will link those videos at the end of this one if you are due for yours. Now you definitely want to look at your owner's manual in regard to these fluids and filters. They all have different intervals when they need to be changed. The engine is every 100 hours. The hydrostatic transmission fluid is the initial is at 75. And after that, it's either 250 or 500, depending on the fluid that you use. The spark plugs get regapped every 100 hours and replaced every 200. The fuel filter is every 500 hours. Now, these are relative to your conditions. If you're doing excessively dusty conditions, usually these intervals are much shorter. And then finally, the air cleaner. Now, these Toro engines, some of them have different style air cleaners on them, but they all have these two-stage filters. The first stage is basically just a foam element that comes off. You want to clean this every 25 hours. I always make sure I clean this at the beginning of the season, so I start off with a nice clean foam element. And the paper filter itself gets replaced every 200 hours. You always want to make sure you run this foam pre-filter because it will significantly extend the life of the paper filter, and it catches a lot of the debris. The foam filter, I basically just clean out with my air gun. I just take it outside and blow all the dust and debris out of it, and then just put it back. It only takes about 5 minutes, and then I know that after all this stuff is checked, I'm pretty much ready to go for the season. So I hope this video helped everybody to know what you really need to focus on to make sure your zero turn is ready for the season. And you want to just basically keep an eye on all this stuff throughout. So if you develop a problem, you can catch it early. And as you start to rack up your hours, you can make sure you address the surface intervals at the appropriate time. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.